Don't translate the text, just listen. Let your brain get used to the sound and rhythm. Then listen and repeat out loud. It's the best way to learn to recognize English easily, even when it's fast and long. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Chapter 9. Mr. Rochester's Past. Soon I discovered what Mr. Rochester meant when he said he had done wrong. One afternoon, while walking in the gardens of Thornfield, he told me the story of his love affair in Paris with a French dancer, Céline. Yes, Miss Eyre, I was young and foolish then. I was so in love with her that I rented a house and hired servants for her. I gave her a carriage and jewels. In fact, I threw away a fortune on her, just like any fool in love. One evening I visited her but found she was out. So I waited on her balcony, smoking a cigar. I heard her carriage arriving. Imagine my horror at seeing her step out, followed by a man. You're so young you've never felt love or jealousy, have you, Miss Eyre? You are floating along a quiet river now. You don't see the water boiling at the foot of the great rocks. But one day you'll come to a point in life's stream where the wild force of the waves may destroy you, where the noisy rushing water may drown you. I am calm enough now, calm enough to like living here at Thornfield. I like it because it's old and gray and dark, and yet I hate— He did not finish what he was saying, staring angrily up at the windows on the top floor of his house. It was a look of disgust, pain, and shame. I could not understand what he meant, and wanted to hear more about Céline, so I encouraged him to finish the story. What happened when she entered the house, sir? Oh, I'd forgotten Céline. By the way, it's strange my telling you all this, but I know my secret's safe with you, and I know too that it can't have an evil influence on you. Your mind's too strong for that. Yes, I listened to her conversation with her lover, an elegant young fool, and I knew I was no longer in love with her. So I walked into the room, told her our relationship was over, and challenged her lover to fight me. Next day, I shot him in the arm during our fight. Thought that was the end of the whole thing, and left France. But a few months before, Céline had had a baby girl, Adele, and she claimed that Adele was my child. She may be, although I doubt it. So when, a few years later, Céline abandoned Adele and ran away to Italy with a singer, I went to Paris and brought Adele back to grow up in England. I felt proud that Mr. Rochester had trusted me with the story of his past life. I thought a lot about his character, and although I was aware of his faults, I also saw his goodness and kindness to me. From now on, my happiest moments were spent with him. I could not have imagined a better companion. One night I was woken by a slight noise. I felt sure someone was outside my bedroom door. As I hurried to lock it, I called, "Who's there?" There was a strange, inhuman sound. Then I heard a door shut upstairs on the top floor. Was that Grace Poole? I wondered, trembling. My curiosity made me open the door, and I found the corridor full of smoke. I saw it was coming from Mr. Rochester's door, which was slightly open. I completely forgot my fears and rushed into his room. He lay fast asleep, surrounded by flames and smoke. Even his sheets were on fire. "Wake up! Wake up!" I shouted desperately, throwing water over him to put out the flames. Not until the fire was almost out did he wake up, swearing to find himself so wet.
"Is there a flood?" he cried. "No, sir," I answered, "but there's been a fire." "Jane Eyre, is it you and your magic?" he asked. "Have you put a spell on me again? Did you intend to drown me this time? Please get up, sir. Someone has plotted to kill you." And I explained what I had heard and how I had put out the fire. He looked very serious and thought for a few seconds. "Shall I fetch Mrs. Fairfax, sir? Or the servants?" I asked. "No, why bother them? Just stay here for a moment. I'm going up to the top floor. Don't call anyone. I'll be back soon." I waited, cold and tired, in his room for what seemed a very long time. Then I saw the light of his candle approaching through the darkness, and he appeared, looking pale and depressed. "Did you see anything when you opened your bedroom door?" he asked, glancing sharply at me. "No, sir, only a candle on the floor." "But you heard a strange laugh, did you say?" "Yes, I've heard it before. Grace Poole laughs like that." "That's it. It must have been Grace Poole. You've guessed it. I shall consider what to do about it. But meanwhile, I'm glad you're the only person who knows anything about all this. Say nothing to anybody else. And now go back to your own room." "Good night then, sir," I said, moving towards the door. "What? Are you leaving me already?" he said, seeming surprised, although he had just told me to go, and so coldly. "You said I should go, sir. But not without saying goodbye. Not without a kind word or two. Why, you've saved my life. I hate being in debt to anyone, but with you it's different, James. I'm happy to owe you my life." His voice was trembling as he took both my hands in his. "I knew when I first saw you that you would do me good. I saw it in your eyes when I met you. I was right to like your smile and the magic in your face." There was energy in his voice and a strange light in his eyes. "I'm glad I happened to be awake," I said. "But I must go now. I'm cold." I knew I could not control my feelings much longer, and I needed time to think. But he still held on to my hands. Then I thought of a way of escaping. "I think I hear the servants moving, sir," I said. "Well, leave me," he said, "and let me go." That night, or what was left of it, I could not sleep. My mind was full of confusing pictures and disturbed emotions. Chapter 10. The Mystery of Grace Poole. After this sleepless night, I was eager to see Mr. Rochester in the morning, but there was no sign of him. He had obviously told the servants that he had accidentally set fire to his room by knocking over a lighted candle. As I passed his bedroom, I saw Grace Poole sitting inside, calmly mending the curtains. She certainly did not look desperate or mad enough to have tried to murder her master. But I decided to investigate. "Good morning, Grace," I said, entering the room. "Tell me, what happened last night? The servants are talking about it." "Good morning, miss," she replied, looking up innocently. "Well, master was reading in bed and fell asleep, so he must have knocked the candle over. It set fire to the sheets, but luckily he managed to put the flames out with some water." "How strange," I said quietly. "Didn't anybody hear what was happening?" At this, she seemed to examine me carefully. "Mrs. Fairfax and you sleep nearest this room, miss. Mrs. Fairfax is a heavy sleeper, like most old people, and didn't hear anything. But you're young, miss. Perhaps you heard a noise." "I did," I whispered. "I'm sure I heard a strange laugh." She went on sewing calmly. "I don't think master would have laughed when he was in such danger," she said. "You must have been dreaming."
No, I wasn't dreaming, I replied sharply. "You didn't think of opening your door and looking out into the corridor?" she asked. I suddenly realized that if she suspected I knew of her guilt, she might attack me. "No, in fact I locked my door," I answered. "And I shall lock it every night from now on." "That's wise of you, miss. We might have burglars at Thornfield one day. You never know." I was amazed by her self-control, and could not understand why Mr. Rochester had not asked the police to arrest her, or at least dismissed her from his service. Why had he asked me to keep the attack a secret? How could such a proud gentleman be so much in the power of one of his servants that he could not even punish her for trying to kill him? Did she know a terrible secret from his past which she had threatened to tell? Could he ever have been in love with her? No, I thought. He could never love anyone as plain and coarse as she is. But then, I'm not beautiful either, and I sometimes think he loves me. Last night, his words, his look, his voice, and my cheeks were red as I thought of those precious moments. I was now even more impatient to see Mr. Rochester, but when I was having tea with Mrs. Fairfax in the afternoon, the first thing she said was, "It's fine weather for the master's journey." "Journey?" I cried. "I didn't know he'd gone anywhere."
"Oh, yes. He went off just after breakfast to visit a family in a big house about 16 miles away. I know they've invited a lot of guests who will be staying in the house. Mr. Rochester is always very popular with the ladies at these parties, so he may not come back for a week or so." "Who are the ladies at this house party?" "3 sisters, very elegant young ladies, and their friends, Blanche and Mary Ingram. But Blanche is the most beautiful of all. I saw her when she came to a Christmas party at Thornfield 6 or 7 years ago. What does she look like? She was 18 then, a lovely girl, with beautiful skin, long curling black hair, and fine black eyes which shone as brightly as her jewels. She looked like a queen. All the gentlemen admired her, not only for her beauty, but also for her musical skills. When she and Mr. Rochester sang together, it was a delight to hear. Mr. Rochester? I didn't know he could sing. Oh, yes, he has a very fine voice. And then she played the piano later. The master said she played extremely well. And this beautiful lady isn't married yet? No, I don't think she or her sister has much money.
But I'm surprised some rich gentleman hasn't fallen in love with her. Mr. Rochester, for example. He's rich, isn't he? Oh, yes, but you see there's a considerable difference in age. He's nearly 40, and she's only 25. Well, marriages like that happen every day. Do you think? But I was interrupted by Adele, who came to join us, and the subject was changed. That night in my room, I was stern with myself. You, Jane Eyre, I accused my reflection in the mirror. You are the biggest fool in the world. How could you imagine that a gentleman of family and wealth would love you, a plain little governess? Just look at yourself. And I decided that next day I would draw an honest sketch of myself, and then one of Blanche Ingram, painting the most lovely face I could imagine, according to Mrs. Fairfax's description. In the future, if ever my old feelings about Mr. Rochester began to return, I would only have to glance at the two pictures to see the great difference between us, and in this way, common sense would destroy my foolish dreams.
Chapter 11. The Thornfield House Party. 2 disappointing weeks passed before we heard from Mr. Rochester again. During this time, I tried hard to forget my feeling for him. I reminded myself that he paid me to teach Adele. Nothing more. And that no other relationship could exist between us. When his letter finally came, Mrs. Fairfax announced with great excitement that he was planning a house party at Thornfield. He was going to return in 3 days' time, and had invited a large number of ladies and gentlemen to stay for several days. We all worked extremely hard in the next few days, cleaning all the rooms and preparing the food. The only person in the house who did not appear excited was Grace Poole, who stayed in her room upstairs, coming down once a day for food and drink. None of the servants seemed at all curious about her. But I once heard 2 of the maids talking, and I listened when I caught her name. "Does Grace Poole earn a lot then?" asked one. "Oh yes, 5 times what you and I earn," answered the other. "But she's good at the work, I expect," said the first. "Ah, she understands what she has to do, that's true," answered the second. "And not everyone would want to do her job. Not even for all that money."
"Quite right. I wonder whether the master—" Suddenly they saw me and broke off their conversation. "Doesn't she know?" I heard one of them whisper. "No," said the other, and they were silent. So I realized there was a secret at Thornfield which nobody wanted to tell me. At last the great day came. Everything was ready for the master and his guests. Adele and I watched from an upstairs window as the carriages arrived. In front rode Mr. Rochester on his black horse, and with him rode a beautiful lady, her black curls streaming in the wind. Blanche Ingram, I thought. We listened to the laughing and talking in the hall as the guests were welcomed by their host and his housekeeper. From a dark corner of the stairs we admired the ladies as they went up to their rooms, and then again as they descended to dinner in their elegant evening dresses. Adele was hoping Mr. Rochester would call her down to meet the guests, but in the end she was so tired with all the excitement that she and I both went to bed early. Next morning, after breakfast, the whole group went out for the day. Again I saw Mr. Rochester and Blanche Ingram riding together. I pointed this out to Mrs. Fairfax. You see, Mr. Rochester clearly prefers her to any of the other ladies.
Yes, he does seem to admire her, admitted the housekeeper. And she admires him. Notice how she looks at him. But I haven't really seen her face yet. I'd like to. You'll see her tonight, answered Mrs. Fairfax. I mentioned to the master that Adele wanted to be introduced to the ladies, and he asked you to bring her down to meet them this evening. Well, I'll go if he wants me to, but I don't like meeting strangers. I'm not used to it. I understand how you feel, said the old lady kindly, but the guests won't notice you much, and you can easily escape after a short time. So Adele and I, dressed in our best, were waiting as the ladies came into the sitting room after dinner. I was most impressed by the beauty and elegance of all of them, but was especially fascinated by the Ingram family. Lady Ingram, although between 40 and 50, was still a fine woman. Her hair still looked black, by candlelight at least, and her teeth still seemed perfect. But she had fierce, proud eyes that reminded me of Aunt Reed's, and a hard, powerful voice. Her daughter Mary was rather quiet, but her other daughter Blanche was very different. As soon as the gentlemen came into the room and coffee was served, she became the center of attention.
She played the piano excellently. She sang sweetly. She discussed intelligently. And all the time her flashing eyes, rich black curls, and fine figure attracted glances from every gentleman in the room. But I was looking for someone else. The last time I had seen him, on the night of the fire, he had held my hands, told me I had saved his life, and looked at me as if he loved me. How close we had been then. But now he entered the room without even looking at me, and took a seat with the ladies. I could not stop looking at him, rather like a thirsty man who knows the water is poisoned but cannot resist drinking. I had never intended to love him. I had tried hard to destroy all feelings of love for him, but now that I saw him again, I could not stop myself loving him. I compared him to the other gentlemen present. They were all fine, handsome men, but they did not have his power, his character, his strength, or indeed his deep laugh or his gentle smile. I felt that he and I were the same sort of person, that there was something in my brain and heart
in my blood and bone, that connected me to him forever.
And although I knew I must hide my feelings, must never allow myself to hope, I also knew that while there was breath in my body, I would always love him. Just then I heard Blanche Ingram say to him, "Mr. Rochester, you should have sent that little girl, Adele, is that her name, to school. But I see you have a governess for her. I saw a strange little person with her just now. Has she gone? Oh no, there she is, on the window seat. It's very foolish of you, you know. Governesses aren't worth their salary, are they, Mamma? My dear, don't mention governesses to me," cried Lady Ingram, holding a white hand to her forehead. "How I have suffered with them!" One of the older ladies whispered to her, pointing in my direction. "Oh, I don't care if she hears me," said Lady Ingram. "All governesses are useless. They never teach children anything. What fun we used to have playing tricks on them, didn't we, Mary?" laughed Blanche. "But governesses are boring. Let's change the subject. Mr. Rochester, will you sing with me?"
"With pleasure," he answered, bowing. And the group moved towards the piano. This was the moment for me to escape. But I had only just left the sitting room and reached the hall when Mr. Rochester appeared through another door. "Come back. You're leaving too early," he said to me. "I'm tired, sir." He looked at me for a minute, and a little depressed. "Why? Tell me." "Nothing. It's nothing, sir." "I'm not depressed. But I think you are. You're almost crying. But I haven't got time now to discover the reason. Well, tonight you may leave early, but I want to see you with my guests every evening. Good night, my—" He stopped, bit his lip, and turned quickly away. Those were cheerful, busy days at Thornfield. The old house had never seen so much life and activity. When it was fine, the host and his guests went riding, visited places of interest, and walked in the gardens. And when it was wet, they played games indoors. Mr. Rochester and Blanche Ingram were always together. Observing them closely, I felt very sure that he would soon marry this fine lady. But I did not feel jealous because I knew he did not love her. She had made every effort to attract him, but he had not given her his heart. I saw her faults very clearly. She was intelligent, but had no opinions of her own. She was beautiful, but not good. She spoke of feelings, but she knew nothing of sympathy or pity. And above all, she had her mother's pride and hardness. Other eyes, apart from mine, saw all these faults. Mr. Rochester himself knew she was not perfect, but he was clearly preparing to marry her, perhaps because she was of good family, perhaps for some other reason. One day, when Mr. Rochester was out alone on business, a stranger arrived in a carriage and introduced himself as an old friend of the master's. His name was Mason, and he had just returned from the West Indies,
where Mr. Rochester had once lived.
To be continued. Good luck.